Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pod TV's #1 do-it-yourself advocate show, Timeshares, Solutions, or Surrender, where Irene Parker, your host, has guided many people to finding solutions to some of their problems. And of course, majority of the time, we tend to address the deceitful acts of timeshares, and sometimes there aren't deceitful acts, but what I am learning lately is a lot of this just tends to be predatory lending against vulnerable people who don't know any better, and the laws just need to change. And that's what Irene and I hopefully will be doing here in the near future now that we have a new government coming into office. And everyone, I'd like to welcome you to meet Irene Parker.
Hi, Kim. It's nice to be back. I'm wearing my Never Leave a Veteran Behind t-shirt from an event I attended in Jacksonville a couple years ago. And this means so much to me to have, in addition to me helping, we have our board of directors. There's 10 on our board, and 2 of our on our board of directors will be joining us today. We have 3 veterans on our board, so we're happy to support all of our military. I'm going to start by bringing our guests on stage and doing a brief introduction, and then I'll let them add their comments. And first person I'm going to introduce, because she's our first time she's been on Timeshare Solutions or Surrender, and this is Sonia and her husband Barry. And we'll be asking you to share your military experience a little bit, but I do know that Barry served 17 years with the Army National Guard and 100% service-related disabled. And the broken record timeshare complaint is the agent told me that if I couldn't use it or something happened, I could rent it out. And that would cover my costs, or even I could earn a profit. I could even make my loan payments. This is an industry-wide problem. And Sonia you purchased from Westgate, correct? And we've had 2 other people on before, Andrew, who had to involuntarily separate from service. Also for Wyndham, a young couple with a 6-year-old that was sold a 4-bedroom and detailed how they were supposed to make money with it. So to support you, we have some prior guests on, and I'm going to start with Norma.
Morning.
Norma's been on the phone a couple times, and y'all feel like family to me. I've gotten to know you so well. And Norma's husband has in addition to being 53 years a pastor, also served in Vietnam with the Navy. And we have fellow Navy veteran family, Gary Hardin. And Gary's on our board, and he has been one of our most valuable resources for TARTA to help us with our constant technology challenges that we all face, including a little bit of garbling here. And so we have also, I'm going to add to the screen, Bob Byerly. And Bob served, did I get it right? 26 years with the Air Force Reserves.
Yes.
And currently a prison nurse. And then
Retired
we have,
from the prison.
okay, and then we have Taya. Taya is both a veteran and an active duty service member. 11 years with the National Guard and now with the Army. Again, a Wyndham buyer. She is in default. Norma is in default. And finally, the last person on our screen today besides Kim is Sheila, one of our board members as well. And thank you, Sheila, for being with us today. Now, what Sheila forwarded me a article that was so disturbing. It was an ARDA, the American Resort Development Association. They had, the title of the article was renting out the timeshare. Well, the title of the article was How to Exit a Timeshare If a Developer Cannot Take Back Your Product. And so it says resales, rental, give it away. And they actually were quoted, renting out the timeshare can provide a source of income to offset maintenance fees. So with that, I would like to start. Well, I know Norma has to exit our show in about 30 minutes, and your complaint was not about renting, but you were told that a benefit would disappear if you didn't buy Wyndham points. Can you just share briefly, Norma, what this has meant for your family and how you're coping, and what prompted to find yourself in this situation where you owe Wyndham $4,300 a month?
Yes, we started the process trying to do this the correct way in June of 2023. We had paid all those many months, and we started our default in August of 2024 because we could not get any kind of help from them. We tried to just ask them to take away the things that were fraudulently, we feel, sold to us in New York. And we've had caseworkers, and then they go away, and then we get another caseworker and they go away. And right now I have a caseworker that's supposed to contact me every 7 to 10 days. And they have been doing that, sort of. And now I'm waiting again. I sent many emails trying to just make some kind of contact with anybody that would help us. And Irene, I appreciate so much your help as far as telling me how to reach them and how to proceed. We're just still in the process, and obviously we cannot afford that. And as some people will say, well, why did you go ahead and buy some more? They told us that we would not be able to have Club Pass with Worldmark if we did not buy Wyndham points, which was a lie.
Well, and the person that told you that was a Worldmark sales agent.
No, it was Wyndham in New York told us that if we did not purchase Wyndham points, that we would lose that privilege. We've been Worldmark owners for over 20 years.
Well, but it was the Worldmark agent that told you had been lied to.
Correct.
Yes. And Wyndham will.
And then that same agent tried to sell us more points as well, for saying that we could our maintenance fees would go away if we bought 50,000 more points, that 50,000 points would take care of our maintenance fees, which is another lie.
Well, and when you were told to reply to this email, you have to reply to this specific email because it has this subject line in it, and you did it 3 times. And
Correct.
The third time you stayed on the phone to make sure it was received, and then you got a dismissal letter about a half an hour later, 2 of them, one of them addressed to another person. Now I want to hear everyone to hear a senior that reached out to me. He does not have computer, he does not have an email, he lives in Virginia. And I used to say about 80% of the people that reach out to us have lost money to an exit company. I'm upping that to 90% because it seems like everyone has lost money to exit companies. So this man reached out to Wyndham in 2021 after his wife died. And and so they did not get back to him. It's very hard to go through the process if you don't have a computer. So in 2022, he paid the Newton Group. And then in nothing happened for over a year. So on March 29th of 2023, Wyndham told them to send him a cancellation letter and a termination with the Newton Group because they won't help you if you've signed up with an exit company. He sent them 2 or 3 times, faxed them the termination letter. I got on the phone with him in August and they said, well, your account has not been cleared yet. It's over a year. And they said, you have to call back every month. So we called a few days ago and they first asked 3 questions. Now we have somebody from Virginia with a very rural accent talking to someone in a foreign, asking, which of these three street names are closest to you? So they asked 3 questions because there's so many exit companies that are probably portraying themselves to be the owner. Now, as far as customer service, we have 2 other Wyndham buyers on with us today before we get to Sonia, who is Westgate. So let's get back to the rental problem. And the other thing besides this article I just read about ARDA actually advising people to rent when Blue Green has suspended hundreds of accounts for renting. We also had Megan, who was pregnant with her 4th child, and Danica was on the show 2 weeks ago, where she received an email. We're honoring our military veterans to support those who serve in recognition of Veterans Day. We're offering 15% discounts and a limited time bonus. So you have not only the hypocrisy of Wyndham offering these discounts and donate your points and we'll match up to support our military families. Let's start with Gary, because Gary can explain the rental problems he's had, and Sonia will follow up with the rental problems she's had. Now, Megan explained how she attempted to book and a Wyndham member, a Wyndham renter, can cancel within 3 days. But an owner has a much longer period to cancel. So if they cancel, you lose your points and your reservation. Gary, have I got that much right? And can you share with us how you were told to rent?
That's pretty close. We tried the rental, and I'm in the process of waiting to call Wyndham to cancel this thing with extra holidays. It didn't work. We've had it there for 6 weeks and no activity. Nobody can tell me what's going on. Nobody can tell me where it's being advertised. Nothing. It's like we're going to cancel it and try to do something else on our own, or we lose the points. We got until the end of the year to do something. But the rental thing is very, very deceptive because right in our contract, one paragraph says you cannot rent. And then Wyndham tells you to use extra holidays to rent. So it's, they're talking out of both sides of their mouth. So it's pretty much a real scam, because if you rent with extra holidays and they happen to get lucky and rent it to somebody, they take 40%. So you lose money off of the rental to get go. And we tried to rent 7 days, a 2-bedroom at the Grand Desert in Las Vegas for National Finals Rodeo Week, and no bites, not even an interest, no questions. So we're gonna take it off and rent it ourselves to try some other stuff on our own and just get away from that Wyndham stuff completely. It doesn't work.
Well, and we had Tom Gwynn on from Florida in an earlier show, Tom retired 23 years with the Baltimore Police Department, and he was told to buy more points to rent, and he now has over 1 million points, and the Wyndham agent gave him the person he should contact to rent. And so it was working. He was offsetting his costs, but it wasn't the Wyndham program. And then he received a cease and desist letter that told him to his account would basically be suspended or terminated. So now he's stuck with more points than he can rent. So Terry McCain just asked, could you auction off the points and keep some money and donate the rest to a good cause? I don't.
I suppose that's possible. But there again, you get crosswise with Wyndham because the contract states that this is for your personal use only. There's a paragraph in our contract that states that. So, what you do with it, maybe you could do that. Actually, I got an email from Koala. You know Koala.
Yes.
They are for 2025. It seems like they have an option to buy our points. So I don't know. I'm going to check into that and see what that's about. But I don't know that that's going to be viable either.
Yeah. And Sonia, since we're talking about renting, you bought from Westgate, and one of the things we're trying to show is this is not just a Wyndham problem or a Westgate problem. This is an industry-wide problem with Blue Green often having their agents promote buying more points to rent. So tell us a little bit, Sonia, of I know that your husband Barry with us today. He was 30 to 40% disabled at purchase, and now 100%. How was renting explained when you purchased?
Yeah, so when we first bought, we bought what we figured we would use just our personal needs and for our family. But then we got pulled into one of those high pressure sales, and my husband also has a hearing loss, and the pressure room, they have music playing, there's all these people talking. He couldn't hear half of what was being said to us. And it was really difficult to feel like we were making a good decision, but the pressure was so high. And then they start throwing in things like, yeah, you could just rent out these extra time that you may or may not want to use right now, or if you see you're coming at the end of the year, you're not going to be able to use them. Just check them onto a rental site anywhere, and you can just make your money back to pay your mortgage, your taxes, the maintenance fees for each year. You won't have any problems. So we went through, we signed a contract, and I hopped on a couple different websites and did a good bit of research about how to go about renting the time that we had with Westgate. And some were better than others. And I did find a specific site that looked better and more trustworthy. And we were successful in renting out one session for like 4 nights. But the price that I had to keep dropping it to even get somebody to be interested in it, it was ridiculous. And one time I did up the math, we would have had to have rented out all of our time over all the bedrooms for the entire year at the price that I had just dropped it to for that single time. We would have had to rent it all out just to be able to make our maintenance and fees. So
and have no points left to travel.
And then have nothing left, for all that mortgage money that we had now paid, that nothing left for us to use and enjoy. So it was like, what the heck point was this? And we looked at each other and we're like, were we high or something when we signed up to do this? And so a few months ago, we really started looking into how could we cancel this, because with his disability, being bumped up to 100%, he is retired completely from teaching now, so he does not work outside the home. He has a fantastic house spouse though. But it is really hard. And like someone just said, we really try to do this coming to Westgate from a place of honor of being, hey, we're paid up, we're current. We have not defaulted. We've not missed payments. We are wanting to work with you guys. Can you help us in figuring out a way that, you know, we could like give it back. You know, just take back the contract. We're not asking for our investment back. We understand. Just call it even and take it back. We're done. And they were not interested. So we don't have a project like that, or we don't have any programs like that. And you don't even qualify for the financial hardship because you're current. So you don't qualify for anything. So this month will be our first missed month, and we are willing to go into default, and most likely will be in default after another month or so.
And I'm happy to see Mark is one of the producers. Mark, are you on the screen with us? He's been following along with us. And Mark, just in summary, what we're trying to showcase here is the hypocrisy. In addition to Sonia, who now her husband 30% disabled, now 100% disabled, service related, for Army National Guard. And we've had Andrew on. I think you've talked to Andrew before, a young couple with a 6-year-old, now 7, sold a 4-bedroom for rental, great detail, how to make money at it. It didn't work. We had last week Robin on, or 2 weeks ago. Robin was on the show. Robin is an Army veteran. She would be with us today, but she's at a veteran event. And she's an Army veteran, but she works for the military EAP, Employee Assistance Program. And she met with sales agents on May 26, 2024. They described a Westgate timeshare as a rental investment with unlimited getaways that could be booked and rented out. I've been to other presentations, but this is the first time I heard that a timeshare could be used as an investment. And then, Mark, we have the Timeshare Industry Lobby, ARDA, with an article, What to Do if your developer won't take your timeshare back, saying you should try renting. So the insanity of this is just unbelievable. And now, when we talk about financing, I've heard from so many veterans that were told that they could get a military discount. So Taya, can you explain the Service Member Civil Relief Act and how that is supposed to work?
Yeah, sure. There's a lot to the SCRA. But one of the major things that people are really interested in it is that they get an interest rate reduction upon active duty service. I think there's a little bit of confusion with what that actually means. And for those of you that are in the National Guard, you kind of understand there's a lot of different types of active duty that you can be in, right? What SCRA is really protecting is that time where you go active duty and you're called to service by the federal government, where your orders are signed by Secretary of Defense or the President, whatever you get on your orders. They don't necessarily count for active duty through the National Guard, say you're on AGR orders, right? But some businesses will still honor that, and they'll still drop your interest rate to that 6% that SCRA dictates. There's been some issues with some owners, timeshare owners, trying to get that SCRA rate reduction when they go into active duty service. Either the developers will simply ignore those service members who are looking to get that, or they'll deny them. And once they've been denied, the timeshare company doesn't talk to them anymore. So it can be quite difficult. And I haven't seen any other businesses be this difficult when dealing with SCRA matters. So that's the nutshell of what a lot of service members are trying to get at, because these interest rates are, as you saw, 14 to 20%, maybe even higher. So that 6% interest reduction rate can be a huge benefit, especially when you're going into active duty service and you get an income drop from, if you have a civilian job, you might have an income drop. And that's what SCRA is there to protect, is to help you when you go into active duty.
And you were eligible for it, not when you were in the Air Force, in the Army National Guard, but you were eligible for the SCRA because of the Army enrollment, correct?
Yeah, so I joined active duty last year, and at that point, I would have been eligible for SCRA reduction, interest rate reduction. But I'm one of those service members who was having some problems getting that information to my timeshare developer. They just weren't hearing me
I
out.
believe you said you sent 74 emails to Wyndham.
It was over 70, yeah. I just wanted them
Oh
to
my
hear me.
God.
I just needed them to respond to me, and they weren't responding.
Well,
That's
and
okay, though. We're getting it figured out now.
Blue Green has been sued for violating the Military Lending Act, and also Wyndham has been sued for violating the Military and Lending Act, as well as Holiday Inn and Westgate. So 4 developers have been sued, and the 11th Circuit of Court of Appeals upheld the ruling that a timeshare mortgage is not the same as a residential mortgage because the Military Lending Act exempts home mortgages. But the other confusing thing with with the National Guard is Taya explained to me that you have, in order to be eligible for the Service Member Civil Relief Act, you can't just be enrolled in the National Guard. You have to be activated.
Yeah,
Correct?
I think so with SCRA and MLA, there's 2 different definitions as to what active duty service is. So I just explained what SCRA is. You have to be activated by the federal government. For MLA, it is any active duty. If you are active duty at the time of that contract signing, whether it be National Guard activation or federal activation, you are still eligible for MLA. So in my case, I could be eligible for both.
Yeah, and then the other important thing of the Military Lending Act is the arbitration clause.
Mm-hmm.
The military prohibits arbitration. And Taya and I and our board member Sheila, who's with us today, we went to Delaware to hear oral arguments in that case. So one military family disputing a $12,000 loan they lost in arbitration. There's a family of 6. They were ordered to pay $66,000, pay the developer over $50,000 of their attorney's fees. It's just, and then when we have the Army in partnership with Wyndham sponsoring a spouse weekend. That was the most recent complaint over the weekend from someone that has 2 loans for 15%. Now, Kimberly, if she's still with us, she has some numbers we're going to put up, and this is going to make Robert Byerly is with us today. He's defaulted on Holiday Inn. Norma is defaulted on Wyndham. And if we look at this, which, I have an MBA, I understand these numbers, but it just really hit home to me in a different way. These are Sonia's figures. What's not on here, because I thought it would be too confusing, is the actual purchase price is listed at $65,800. And there was a trade-in credit for a Westgate week she had before for $24,021. You would be lucky to sell that week for $2,000. I believe in the auto industry, it's called price packing. When you inflate the prices of the trade-in to make it look like you're getting a really great deal. And then the other thing, so the amount financed was $42,577. The second line, this was the first I've seen this, and we don't review contracts because we're not attorneys, and we promote self-advocacy so that you gather this information. And so Sonia gathered this for her report, and Westgate charged her $3,477 for credit life. If something happens to her, Westgate will get paid. So when you look at over 2 years of payments made, they've paid a total of $17,853, but the interest is $13,000 and the principal is $4,720.
Irene, was that life insurance policy, was that a elective, or was it something that they just kind of fluffed in there?
No, it would have just been automatically charged to them. And,
Yeah, but if
you
they
know,
don't disclose things like this when they charge them to you, isn't that kind of violating the laws?
we'll have to ask your sister for that.
Because
But
I know, like, when they added that fee to, a payment, the payments, it was supposed to be an elective fee, but wouldn't you think insurance is an elective thing, not part of the
well,
mortgage?
I just completed the post-license real estate course where it is required, PMI is required if you don't have enough of a down payment. But
That's for a real home mortgage, and you don't put down or whatever more than 80% or something, but that's for a real home mortgage. I'm talking about life insurance. You're talking about life insurance covering, which they do have for home mortgages. They have a life insurance policy you can buy if you feel like you might need it, because my brother-in-law did it, and when he died, it did pay his mortgage off. But it was an elective. It was not forced on him. So
the lenders will require it if you don't have a high enough down payment. But in this case, and we're used to seeing our home mortgage amortization schedule. But look at this. And Kim, I'm so glad you added this, that over 10
well,
years.
me, I want the whole story. I don't want I want people to see this is what you're paying for vacation.
Yeah, so over 10 years, a timeshare that Westgate charges $2,500 if you give it back would cost, if you went the full term of the loan, $102,492.
That's right. So if you pay that payment, it would be around there. That's an estimation. I took it from a formula I saw for $46,000 loan at 16%. So, I just kind of play with the numbers a little bit. But the other thing I want you guys to know and be aware of is another, what I consider a little part of their scam, is they'll sit down with you and they'll go, it's this percentage if you want to just do the loan and send us a check every month, or pay us, or if you attach it to your bank account, we'll reduce it to a lower interest rate, but you have to do it now. Now, when you give them that access, you're not assigning it. They go in with your signature and attach to your bank account. You cannot stop that payment no matter what. That payment can never be physically stopped by you. In fact, you have to close the bank account, physically close it completely. And if you do succeed in that, they can turn around and attach it to another bank account if they want to. So, odds are you would probably have to go open up a bank account in another bank. But this is from real life experience and from talking with the bankers during a real life experience as to why, the payments couldn't be stopped. So, be careful when you make any future contracts with anyone. Don't let them, what do you call it? Don't let them encourage you by fear or by, we're going to lower your interest rate if you do this. If they can't lower your interest rate anyway, then you know what? Their whole thing is a scheme. Their whole thing is nothing but a scheme. So, but think about $102,492 in 10 years is what you would have spent to have that. But then you're required to pay the fees and stuff like that forever. And I'm told that those, go up with, over exaggerated inflation all the time. So think about, that's a lot of vacations you could be taking somewhere
Yes.
else and not be tied to one place. I just
Well,
I had a
and
quick question.
mhm.
I had a quick question for you, Irene, and everything, and Taya may be able to answer this as well and everything, because I was actually just talking yesterday to my cousin who is retired military. Both him and his wife, they're getting ready to celebrate 20 years next year, 20-year anniversary, and all along those lines and everything. But I know my cousin Emmett is thinking about going to Costa Rica. I think him and his wife are thinking about that as a vacation spot and everything. So I was just wondering, are any of these timeshares in Latin America, or is that something that they need to be worried about if they are looking at doing that sometime in 2025? Like I said, they might be trying to do that as an anniversary gift to themselves.
Well, the best way to do to everybody on this show, there are millions of people that love their timeshare, but it's the best option is to go to Timeshare Users Group, TUG, or to Red Week, or to Koala, and pay somebody, help somebody else with their maintenance fees. So those are timeshare resorts that that allow renting and be able to do that. Now, since we have so many people in default, we have Bob, who purchased from Holiday Inn, formerly known as Orange Lake. And people always ask, can they put a lien on my home if I stop paying my my loan payments? It's been determined by the 11th Circuit. It's not a mortgage, it's an installment loan. Bob, can you tell us how how long has it been since you stopped making payments? Why did you stop making payments? And are you getting harassing calls? We've talked about this a little bit too, that you can send a cease and desist letter to stop harassing calls, because that's against the Fair Credit Reporting Act. So Bob, where are you at with your situation?
We still do get some phone calls, and I tell them that little saying about all the lawsuits, and they usually don't like to talk much after that. But we quit paying last month, or next month will be a year. So next month will be a year we quit paying. We what?
And
We haven't gotten any letters.
No, we haven't gotten any letters, but we're just worried about the credit report, because on Credit Karma, 2 of my credit reports are excellent, but my Experian is at like 600.
That's the one we keep.
Yes,
That's the one.
and we haven't talked to you for a while, but I can email you, if I haven't already, the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals ruling that a timeshare mortgage is an installment loan, not a home mortgage, because as I said earlier, the home mortgages are exempt. Kim's sister works in lending, and she's also a credit repair expert. And she has been on our show, and she said it does make a difference if it is an installment loan and not a mortgage loan. Also, Fannie Mae, on our TARDA website, on our blog, if you go to the lawsuit category, they have Fannie Mae. Scroll down the article. Fannie Mae also says that a timeshare loan is not a mortgage, and also the National Credit Union Association says it's not a mortgage. And explain briefly why you stopped paying. What deception did you experience that forced you as a veteran to default?
Well, we were having trouble getting our a use of our week to schedule a time. They wanted like 6 months in advance. My wife spent hours on the phone with them trying to get a week, and they said nothing was available. And we just,
It took 6 months.
yeah, it took many months before we could access their website, which in today's day and age, if you pay for a membership, you should be able to get on it right away, I would think.
Oh, well, and that's what we're trying to lobby for. Three things. One is the oral representation clause, where if you dispute your sale, they will say, "Oh, here's your initials, where you acknowledge that you didn't believe anything a sales agent said." The sanitized version is, "I did not rely on oral representations to make my purchase." If the developers wanted you to know that, it would be disclosed at or prior to the presentation. You get an appointment card, you get an email. All they would have to do is say, "Do not rely on oral representations." The second thing is having access to the booking site. The developers always say, and Florida Attorney General always says, you should have read the contract. You had 10 days to cancel if you're in Florida, or 5 days in Nevada. When it comes to renting, or even the Service Members Civil Relief Act, we had a prior guest on, Valerie. She was not eligible for it because she's 26 years with the Air Force National Guard. But the sales agent said, "Oh yeah, you're military. There's a 6% interest rate." And she kind of remembered that. Well, the burden is on her. But if the contract rescission period, that 5 or 10 days, it should start the day you have access to the booking site. I mean,
Right.
you would know these things and be able to cancel if you had it. It's just completely out of control. Now, you're not getting that many letters. I would suggest that you send that appellate court ruling to Experian. And also, Blue Green was sued in 2014, and they were required to remove foreclosure from 11,000, Experian and Blue Green. And if you search Blue Green lawsuit, FinLaw Group, Mike's been a guest here, and then going forward, they could not call it a foreclosure. So they had to change that for 11,000 accounts, and going forward to charged off or settled for less. Now, members supporting members is something that is a powerful force. It's a powerful force. So what I want to do is, I got to thinking about, I got myself into this in 2016 when I filed with 3 attorney generals and I was offered my money back. And it didn't feel right to sign the non-disclosure agreement saying I would never say anything negative. One of the first people that reached out to me, because I wrote a few articles, was an active duty Navy. Both the husband and wife were in active duty Navy. They bought in Virginia, and they said, "Oh, you're military, so you can refinance easily." And then they went to Florida within 90 days to get you into that organization, so that orientation, so you can be upsold before you have a chance to use the points. And then they found their security clearances in jeopardy, forced to default because they couldn't afford the higher interest rate. I want to, in remembrance, I know this is Veterans Day, not Memorial's Day, but Leo Gomez was a veteran when he called me in 2016 and 2017. Over 1,000 Diamond Resorts members, now owned by Hilton, filed complaints with the Arizona Attorney General. So Leo called me and said, "I'm really worried about a $26,000 loan I have." Well, what happened? They said my Premier Vacation points had to be converted. We converted our Premier Vacation points to Diamond US Collection points. I said, "Well, I really, that's, a lot of people do that. I don't think that's deceptive." And he says, "Well, okay, I was just worried about it because I only have 30 days left to live." And so 2:00 in the morning, I woke up thinking something.
Uh-oh, we lost Irene.
Usually I ask that she keep talking because the system will continue recording her, but I think she completely froze from for a minute on the back end of the system. But, you know, there is all kinds of problems with what we have right now. And I was reading the comment about one of the viewers, and, you know, maybe your solution is to maybe try to auction off the points you have. And you know, people might be more encouraged to buy the time. I don't know how your time works. If somebody got it, could they use it anytime, or do that, you know, or what? But you know, auctioning off things nowadays, I think, is a legitimate way to maybe get something back for what you have, and you know, paying, you know, and helping others. So it's just I thought that was a cool idea. Many of you are struggling right now, and when we look at the interest rates, you might want to contact your senators and ask why they are allowed to over inflate the interest rates like that. In many cases I have seen over the years, Department of Justice come in and go, you know what? Overinflation of interest rates are not allowed. Of course, the IRS is allowed to do it, but everyone else is not. So making a couple of complaints to the Department of Justice at the state level and maybe at the federal level, if enough of you are doing it, or maybe we all get together and get a petition and send it to all of them, you know, signed by a couple of thousand people, maybe they would go, oh crap. Or, you know, one time I convinced, you know, thousands of people to write the city council in one day about a problem that existed that city council wasn't doing anything about. Of course, they got mad at me. But for convincing people to do that because their system started to go down. But, you know, that's the only way you're going to get anything done. If you want to get out of this, you're going to have to start hitting your government. You're going to have to be the squeaky wheel they can't stand. You're going to have to be the dung on their shoe. They can't kick you off. And I hate putting it that way, but that's the people who get things accomplished in the government. But I truly believe you need to write and say these inflated interest rates are not just unconstitutional, they're unethical, but they're, in most cases, most Department of Justices, I've seen them come after organizations that overinflated interest rates. You know, I've seen insurance commissioners go after insurance companies for overcharging things. So there is a regulation out there, and I just don't think enough people have complained and made it painful enough for the Department of Justice and your senators to do anything. So maybe we can get, but Irene, are you back? I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm keeping airtime going. So that, you know, and I didn't know what kind of questions you had lined up for everybody else. So I just kept airtime going. So
my computer completely died and my phone had no connection, but there's no hurricane going on right now. I don't know what happened.
You know, it could be, you know, the other side going, oh, we need to shut her off.
You know, you never know. It's now loading my documents. Okay, so I'm going to talk quickly because I really want to honor these veterans. They just mean so much to me. So I filed a complaint with the Arizona Attorney General. Diamond responded with a very detailed single-space letter about everything wrong with Irene Parker. And the last sentence was, under the circumstances, we'll cancel this. And I thought, whatever. A couple weeks later, Lydia, his wife, called hysterical. He only had hours left to live. He had 2 Purple Hearts. He forgot to tell me about the Bronze Star, little things like that, right? And I read that in his obituary. But Barclay was trying to collect the down payment right before he died. The other one was Calvin Wardrick. Calvin spent 2 months in the hospital for PTSD. He ran a prisoner of war camp of 27,000 Army Iraqi prisoners of war, and there was a lot of carnage in that situation. And so he paid $6,000 for a vacation village timeshare. He retained nationwide transfer. They lied to him, and over a period of 2 years extorted $16,000 from him in 4 checks. And Vacation Village asked for medical documentation, and they responded he had Parkinson's, and he didn't. And he sent them the accurate, but they just did that to string him on. The other one is Diane Burkhart's father, and this was reported by Consumer Affairs. Her father's a Korean War veteran. At age 85, he asked Diamond Resorts to take back his week. They said no. Between age 85 and 88, they sold him $250,000 worth of timeshare points. And this was during that 2016, 2017. They were also mentioned in the lawsuit of sending buses to senior centers to take them to sales presentations. And I helped them file an FBI report because the definition of white-collar crime is deceit, concealment, violation of trust, and bait and switch. The other veteran I want to honor from a couple years ago is David Young. David Young is Army. Yes, Army. He was in a battle, and I can't remember the name. It was Vietnam, but they made a movie out of his battle. It was called Danger Close. So check out that movie. He lost $100,000 to timeshare. Devastated. The last veteran, there's so many that I got to know. My father was a cook for the nurses in the Navy. He said he had the best job in the Navy. He enlisted at age 36, so I didn't grow up hearing war stories like this, and the acts of bravery and sacrifice. Raymond Morey, his wife told me he would wake up screaming at night at age 80 something, left over from when he served as a young man. And his daughter, who's also a veteran, went to a presentation with him and listened to the sales agents attempting to sell him $200,000 worth of points while he was dozing off in his wheelchair. And she took those figures that the sales agent, and she put them under the table and confiscated them. And I wrote articles about Raymond Morey and Leo on op-ed, I think was the name of the presentation. So Sheila, you're with us today, and I really appreciate you and Gary following along to know what it's like, and you've been on calls with me, the horror. And instead of us working together with ARDA, with the developers, I always say that half of a problem will go away when it's confronted. So, why can't we acknowledge that there's problems like this? So Sheila, what do you say when you just hear millions of people love their timeshare, and these are just a few people that we shouldn't have to worry about? They just didn't take the time to read the contract, and you're kind of in this boat right now. Share a little bit about your experience.
I am. I owned a timeshare. I've owned timeshare since 1995. And it was probably 2 years ago that timeshare, it had gone from different companies. But it was about 3 years ago that I got a very deceptive salesperson and talked us into something that we shouldn't have gotten into. We had spent over $200 and some thousand with this company, and they just wouldn't listen that this salesperson was so bad, and neither would their attorneys. So we finally got out, and I can't mention their name, but we got out of them. But now I am in the process of trying to get out of Exploria Resorts.
And what do you say, Sheila, about
Yeah.
the article? The article artist said, what to do if your timeshare developer cannot take it back? Sell it, rent it, give it away.
Oh, well, let me tell you, you can't get, I wouldn't give it away to my worst enemy. Yeah, I mean, I got that from Exploria Resorts, said the same thing. And I continue to fight with them. And years ago, when I first got to know Irene and everything, and I think it was a couple years later, that we found out that we should be sending things to the FBI. I spoke with an FBI agent for over an hour, and he was very interested in what I had to say. But it takes a lot of people to send your complaints to the FBI. And also, there's the Secret Service. Secret Service, I always thought, was for just protecting the president. But no, it's for credit card.
Yes.
Yes. So people, you have to continue to fight. I know it's hard. And if it is that you have to get out and not continue to pay, it will hit your credit report, but it's usually only I'm sorry, the one credit agency that
Experian.
Yes. Yes. And thank you. So I always tell people to write a letter to them explaining why that went down, and that with your other credit agencies, they are up there. And it is because of a timeshare deception.
Well, and the only time I have ever been aware of somebody being sued on a note, a timeshare note, is if they had retained an exit company or a lawyer kind of using you as a pawn to punish the law firm, because the law firm doesn't charge any extra to defend you in that lawsuit. But do any of our guests now, we still have Sonia, Gary, Taya, and Bob. Do you have any other thoughts that you would like to add, or anything you'd like to share about your military experience, since this is Veterans Day?
Yes, and thank you all for your service.
And one other thing, I just remembered this. Okay, Andrew, that Westgate sold the 4-bedroom. Megan, that Wyndham told her, don't worry about your husband, a Marine, being deployed to a combat zone. Both of them live in Utah. And there's a senator in Utah that's on the Veterans Affairs Committee. We have to get to the Army, if they're partnering with Wyndham, to have spouse weekends, like the person that contacted me over the weekend. Taya, you're still active duty. I hope you'll dig in with me and try to get to whoever. How can the Army, with so many people finding their security clearances in jeopardy, how can the Army partner with Wyndham for events to sell points?
I don't think they're fully aware of what's really going on behind the scenes, especially in those sales presentations. If you've never been in a sales presentation, you don't understand the pressure that you're under. But if you do find yourself in a situation where you believe there are some legal issues, especially with timeshares, if you're still enlisted, and even if you're a veteran, you can go to the JAG office nearest you, or you can call the JAG office and you can get a lawyer to give you some good information about what your options are and what you can do next. They won't represent you, but they will give you information and resources to help you.
Well, thank you for that. And Sonia, do you feel a little bit better just knowing you're not alone?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Being part of a crew definitely helps to know that some people have your back and have been there before, and going forward, it is much comforting. Much more comforting.
Irene.
Well, that's a good way to wrap up on a good note, is that there is someone there.
Irene.
Yes.
I have to go. I have a doctor's appointment.
Okay. Well, thank you for being with us, Bob.
Thank you,
See y'all.
everyone. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everyone, for joining us here on Pod TV's Timeshare Solution or Surrender. Let's unite and join together to help fight and make things right. And I think that's going to be our next steps. Everyone, take care. And we look forward to seeing you next Monday, where we're still going to be taking on some of these problems.
And Sheila will be back with us as well next
I
week.
will.
That's